The next step we're going to do is clean the pool. We've acid etched, repaired it. The first product we're going to use on here is the thin 5001 primer. And the reason why we're using this is it's very thin and it seals off the concrete. It pulls any moisture out of the concrete and or surface and brings the air out. This stabilizes the product, so when we go back on with the 5001 thick, then we've got a good bond coat to go to. And what it does, it saves us a lot of time and money down the road and having to put just one coat on and have to go back and fix blisters, problems with moisture, and other things that can happen to us, and this saves us a lot of time. When we start to cut this in, what we want to do is we're actually using duct tape along the edge and we're sealing off. And this is our masking we're going to use, but we want to make sure we use duct tape and of a greater or a better quality duct tape. The cheaper quality duct tapes that you'd find on bargain sales will actually be deteriorated by this product. As you can see, we've taped off over here and we've used Visqueen on top, and we've got the duct tape on there. This is to protect our own product, so when we peel it off we don't have to worry about going back and trying to clean something or polishing it up. Next thing we want to do is we're going to take and we're going to MEK or use denatured alcohol on our tile. If this is what we're going to go over the top of it. In this particular pool we're going over the top of it and putting the new tile over it. So we've MEK'd this and we've cut it in and we've taken the primer and actually cut in along this edge through here. So that way we make sure we get good penetration. If there's any holes, we can work it in with a brush, and then after that we actually go over it again with a roller to make sure that it's got a good solid penetration on it with the first product. Then we start into, as you can see, we've got the pool back here. We've already got part of it done. When we do, we start from the sides and work our way from the top to the bottom and get it down to where we get the bottom part done, and then we leave the bottom dry and then we work our way out so we have a place to work from. When you're doing this, you're going to find a condition that's going to happen where the product wants to start dripping or sagging. So what you want to do is put it on and have somebody that can go back and check it to make sure that all the time that they're rolling it or back rolling it to make sure that there's no sags or drips in the product. Another problem you're going to run into if you're doing an outdoor pool where you're using direct sunlight. This one is enclosed, so we're not having the problem here, but we're still watching for it, is air entrapment. As this product is going on, it's bringing any air out of the concrete. And one way to get to it, and usually you don't see it until it's already, you've got a bunch of it done, and you need to get to it and get it broke down. If you don't get the air entrapment tended to at that point and get them broken, then you need to go back and regrind off that bubble and you need to reseal it. So you've created a whole nother process if you don't get to them right then and there. And one of the tricks that we used to do with is we just use a roller cover, and we take duct tape and put it around this and put it on a pole, and as you see them you can take and roll over them. Don't use a cover, just use this roller. Then you just roll over the top of them and it'll break them up for you. And you can do that while it's still wet. You save the whole process. We've already got the first layer on and the second layer. This is our 5001 thick, which is the primer, the base coat. And you can see where it's nice and shiny, but we still have some imperfections on it. There's little bumps and niches and stuff like that. So anything that's high, what we want to do is take a sander, a hand sander, and just grind it off so that it's smooth. These imperfections here, we're going to come back in with a product called Trowel, which is our product with the coloring in it. It's a thick paste, and we're going to actually fill those in so that it's smooth, just like using, basically like using Bondo. We also have here is a light niche. We've got the old one ground out and we've got the new one sitting in there and it's beat in there nice and tight. We're going to come back in off from our ring and we're actually going to lay the trowel in here and flatten this out so it has a nice smooth surface, so it looks like it was actually installed originally in the pool. So you can see over here we've got some of the stuff where we've had imperfections on our patches where we just come back around and feather those in, so that way when we shoot our product over it, then we don't have to worry about it. Now we're ready to start spraying the product. There's a couple concerns that you need to think about before you start spraying, is that this is a real heavy viscosity product. We're going to have to make sure it's at 90 degrees so that it has enough so we can even get it through the gun. The gun we're using has a 45 to ratio piston on it so that we're able to create a 3000 psi at the tip. We're using a very large tip, but when we start to spray, you need to make sure the whole room is masked off or anything that can possibly get this overspray on, because once it gets the overspray, it's permanent too. So we'll mask off the room completely and then start to spray. When we get the product mixed and ready to go, we're going to start spraying, and we're going to take the top first and work our way down to where the slope of the bottom of the pool is. We're not going to be able to get 35 mils on in one shot, so what we need to do is start at one point, work our way around the pool, possibly 2 to 3 times to make sure you have enough product on the walls of the pool to make sure that we hit the 35 mils of product. Once we get that done, then what we're going to do is start at one end of the pool and use one coat 35 mils thick, and do a flooding. So you just want to keep spraying until where you flood it thick enough to get your 35 mils and work your way back out the steps. Once you're done with that, then seal it off. Make sure no dust gets in there, no insects, anything possibly can get in that pool till this cures off. You have a drying time there of about 2 hours. 45 minutes is pretty well gone with and starting to get tacky, but I prefer to let it go for a couple hours and make sure it's sealed off, and then wait until the next day to start removing all the prep work, the paper and stuff. So the best thing to do, just clean the gun and go home, let it sit, start over the next day. Another instance that you might run into if you start working and spraying down this product and you have weather come in or an equipment failure, or there's various things that can happen. If this product sits for more than 24 hours between applications, you need to resurface the existing surface that we've got for the epoxies down. So what happens, it gets so hard that it gets a gloss finish to it. And you can see right here where it's nice and glossy. Nothing's going to stick to that. So if you figure 24 hours, and in some circumstances, depending on the humidity and stuff, up to 48 hours, but if it gets really hard and glossy, then you need to resurface it. And all we do is just take a fine grit sander and we just rough it up. So we brought all that gloss off from it so it'll stick to it. When you do that, you want to grind it off, blow it, vacuum it, take MEK and wipe it down again to make sure all the dust is off. And when you got that done, then you can go right back over with the next coat or the next step that you're doing with. And this is really important to do, because if you try shooting over it with that gloss, you will not bond. So you're going to have problems if you don't make sure that you have it properly surfaced and prepped before you put on the second or third coat, or from a mechanical breakdown or weather. There's various different reasons.
I want to thank Mike Ryle with Dream Spas and Pools for being with us today.